Chapter 11 of the Film Mystery. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Reading by Lucy Burgoyne. The Film Mystery by Arthur B. Reeve. Chapter 11 Forestalled. On the train Kennedy left me to look through the other cars, having the idea that Phelps might be aboard also. But there were no signs of the banker. We would reach Tarrytown first unless he had chosen to motor out. Mackay was waiting at the station to meet us and to take us to the house. The little district attorney was obviously excited. "Was the place guarded well last night?" asked Kennedy, almost before we had shaken hands. "Yes, that is, I thought it was. That's what I want to tell you. After you left with Manton and Werner, the rest of the company packed up and pulled out in the two studio cars. I was a little in doubt what to do about Phelps, but he settled it himself by announcing that he was going to town. The coroner came and issued the permit to remove the body, and that was taken away. I think the house and the presence of the dead girl and all the rest of it got on Phelps' nerves, because he was irritable and impatient, unwilling to wait for his own car, until finally I drove him to the station myself." "Was any of those on our list of possible suspects at least, alone in the room or in the house?" "Not while I was there," Mackay replied. "I took good care of that. Then, when everyone was gone and while Phelps was waiting for me, I detailed two of my deputies to stay on guard, one inside and one outside, for the night. I thought it sufficient precaution, since you had made your preliminary examination." And Kennedy nodded, seeking to hurry the explanation. "And yet," added Mackay, "someone entered the house last night in spite of us." Kennedy fairly swore under his breath. He seemed to blame himself for some omission in his investigation the previous afternoon. "How did it happen?" I asked, rather excitedly. "It was about 3 o'clock, the guards tell me. The man inside was dozing in a chair before the living room fireplace. He was placed so he could command a view of the doorway to the library as well as to the stairs and reception hall. All at once he was awakened by a shot and a cry from outside. He jumped up and ran toward the library. As he did so the portieres bellied in toward him, as if in stiff sudden draught, or as if someone had darted into their folds quickly, then out. With no hesitation he drew his own weapon, rushing the curtains. There was no one secreted about them. Then with the revolver in one hand he switched on the lights. The room was empty, but one pair of French windows at the farther end were wide open, and it was that which had caused the current of air. He ran over and found the lock had been forced. It was not even an artistic job of jimmying." "What about the deputy posted outside?" prompted Kennedy. "That's the strange part of it. He was alert enough, but it's a big house to watch. He swears that the first thing he knew of any trouble was the sharp metallic click which he realized later was the sound made by the intruder in forcing the catch of the French window. It was pretty loud out in the quiet of a Tarrytown night. He started around from the rear, and then the next thing he caught was the outline of a shadowy slinking figure as a man dropped out of the library. He called. The intruder broke into a run, darting across the open space of lawn and crushing through the shrubbery without any further effort at concealment. My man called again and began to chase the stranger, finally firing and missing. In the shrubbery a sharp branch whipped him under the chin, just as he obtained a clear view of the outlined figure of his quarry, and as he raised his weapon to shoot again. The revolver was knocked from his hand, and he was thrown back, falling to the ground and momentarily stunned. Whoever broke into the library got away, of course. What did the intruder look like? There was an eagerness in Kennedy's manner. I grasped that the case was beginning to clarify itself in his mind. Mackay shook his head. There was no moon, you know, and everything happened swiftly. But he was tall or short or slender or stout. The deputy must have got some vague idea of him at least. It was one of my amateur deputies, Mackay admitted, reluctantly. He thought the man was hatless, but couldn't even be sure of that. Were there footprints or fingerprints? No, Mr. Kennedy, we're out of luck again. When he jumped out he fell to his hands and knees in a garden bed. The footmarks were ruined because his feet slid and simply made two irregular gashes. The marks of his hands indicated to me, anyhow, that he wore heavy gloves, rubber probably. Any disturbance in the library? Not that I could notice. That's why I phoned you at once. I'm hoping you'll discover something. Well, Kennedy sighed. It was a wonderful opportunity to get to the bottom of this. I haven't told you all yet, Mr. Kennedy, Mackay went on. There was a second man and… A second man? Kennedy straightened, distinctly surprised. I would swear this whole thing was a one-man job. They weren't together, the district attorney explained. That's why I didn't mention them both at once. But my deputy says that when he was thrown by the lash of the branch, he was unable to move for a few seconds, on account of the nerve shock I suppose, and that while he was motionless, squatted in a sort of sitting position, with hands braced behind him, just as he fell, he was aware of a second stranger concealed in the shrubbery. The second fellow was watching the first, without the question of a doubt. While the deputy slowly rose to his feet, this other chap started to follow the man who had broken into the house. But at that moment there was the sudden sound of a self-starter in a car, then the purr of a motor and the clatter of gears. Number one spun off in the darkness of the road as pretty as you please. Number two grunted in plain disgust. By this time my deputy had his wind. His revolver was gone, but he jumped the second stranger with little enough hesitation, and they battled royally for several minutes in the dark. Unfortunately, it was an unequal match. The intruder apparently was a stocky man, built with the strength of a battleship. He got away also, without leaving anything behind him to serve for identification. You have no more description than of the first man? Unfortunately not. Medium height, a little inclined to be stocky, strong as a longshoreman, that's all. Are you sure your deputy isn't romancing? Positively. He's the son of one of our best families here, a sportsman and an athlete. I knew he loved a lark or a chance for adventure, and so I impressed him and a companion as deputies when I met them on the street on the way up to Phelps' house just after the tragedy. Kennedy lapsed into thought. Who could the self-constituted watcher have been? Who was interested in this case other than the proper authorities? Apparently someone knew more than Mackay, more than Kennedy. Whoever it was had made no effort to communicate with any of us. This was a new angle to the mystery, a mystery which became deeper as we progressed. At the house Kennedy first made a careful tour of the exterior, and found nothing. Mackay had doubled his guards and had sent Phelps' servants away so that there could be no interference. Once inside, I noticed that